Today, we're diving into a story, and it's a wild one. It starts with a totally normal DNA test, but where it ends, well, it might just force us to rewrite the very first chapter of the human story.
Okay, let me just ask you this straight up. What if our history is twice as old as we think it is? I'm not talking about a small mistake. I mean, what if everything we've been told is off by a factor of 2? It sounds crazy, but that's exactly the possibility we're digging into.
So, where does a story this huge even begin? You might be picturing some dusty ancient tomb or a remote archaeological dig, right? Nope. This story starts somewhere way more familiar, with a simple, routine DNA test.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2013. A relative of an African-American man named Albert Perry sends in his DNA to a genetics company. The goal was pretty standard, just trace the family tree, see where they came from, but then the lab gets the results. And something is very different. They found a Y chromosome with a genetic signature so bizarre, so unique, it literally didn't fit anywhere on the human family tree they had. Anywhere. So to really get why this was such a bombshell, we kind of need a quick crash course on what scientists thought they knew about our family tree. Let's look at the official story, the established consensus. All right, to get this, we have to talk about a guy called Y-chromosomal Adam. And listen, this isn't the Adam from the Bible, okay? It's a scientific concept. Think of him as the patient zero for the Y chromosome, the most recent common male ancestor that every living man today can trace their paternal line back to in one unbroken chain of fathers and sons. For years, he was basically the starting line for us.
And for decades, all the evidence, all the genetic data we had pointed to this Adam living somewhere between, say, 60,000 and 140,000 years ago. This wasn't some wild guess. This was considered scientific bedrock. It's what the textbook said.
And then Albert Perry's DNA comes along and just shatters that entire picture. The timeline his genetics pointed to wasn't just a little bit older, it was impossibly older.
I mean, look at this. On one side, you have the timeline everyone agreed on. But Albert Perry's lineage, it's not even on the same page. It's in a different book entirely. This isn't a minor correction, it's a giant leap back into a past we didn't even know existed.
Yeah, just take a second and look at that number. 338,000 years. The analysis basically said that the common ancestor for this specific lineage was alive and walking the earth more than 200,000 years before the Adam we thought was the beginning.
To put that into perspective for you, this genetic line is older than the oldest Homo sapiens fossil we have ever found, by over 100,000 years. It's like finding a birth certificate for a great-great-great-grandparent you never knew existed, from a time you didn't think your family was even around.
A discovery this big, it doesn't just stay in a genetics lab. It sends shockwaves out into history, into archaeology. It forces everyone to start asking some really, really big questions about our past.
And this quote here just nails it. When your timeline gets blown up like this, suddenly everything you thought you knew is up for grabs. All those foundational ideas about when and where humanity got its start, yeah, they're all being questioned now.
And naturally, this leads to some pretty wild questions. Could this DNA be actual hard proof of so-called pre-Adamite civilizations? The idea that there were people, maybe even whole societies, that existed long, long before the time frame we usually associate with figures like Adam and Eve?
All of a sudden, you've got people looking at these ancient, mysterious texts in a totally new way. Things like the Sumerian and Egyptian king lists, they talk about dynasties that ruled for tens of thousands of years, about gods with these crazy long lifespans. For forever, we've just said, oh, that's just mythology. But what if it's not? What if those are pieces of a puzzle we're only just now starting to see?
So, the takeaway here isn't that we have all the answers now. Far from it. This discovery didn't solve a mystery. It basically opened a Pandora's box of new ones about who we are and where we really come from.
And maybe this is the biggest puzzle left on the table. If this genetic evidence suggests that humans, and maybe even advanced humans with complex societies, could have been around for over 300,000 years, then why do all our stories, all our recorded history, all our creation myths seem to start just 10,000 years ago? It's like there's this huge, massive blank spot in our memory. What happened in all that time?
The main thing to get from all this is, it's just incredible. A single DNA sample from one person has thrown a giant wrench into our entire origin story. It just goes to show you there is so much about our own deep past that we have yet to uncover.
And that's really the final question, isn't it? If one man's DNA can rewrite our timeline by over 200,000 years, what else is hiding in our genes? What other ancient doors are just waiting for us to find the key?